Hello everyone, I'm Karen from Karen Chronicles, and today I have a bookish video for you all that I am just tremendously excited for. So I am filming this video quite early because I'm going on a little vacay with my family, and so I wanted to have this video prepared and ready to go in time for the Poc-A-Thon. Justin over at Ghost Reads announced that him and a few other booktubers will be hosting a Poc-A-Thon from August 12th to the 19th. POC stands for Persons of Color, and the Poc-A-Thon is this week-long reading event, readathon, that celebrates diversity and cultures and people's stories in literature. So this is actually my second time filming this video because the first time I didn't have any of the books, but I went to the library today and I picked them all up. I own only one of the books, so I'm so excited. You know, as a young woman of color myself, I am looking forward to participating in this readathon because diversity is such a very important topic to me. I grew up in Hawaii and I feel so blessed to have been able to be surrounded constantly by various cultures and languages. So I grew up around English, Japanese, Hawaiian. I heard Spanish a lot, Tagalog, Chinese, like you name it, I probably heard it at one point. And I think being in such an ethnically and culturally diverse community, as well as moving to somewhere like South Carolina, which I'm currently in, and isn't so ethnically and culturally diverse, is kind of why I have this deep appreciation for people's stories. And so that is why I am excited to dedicate a week-long readathon to authors of color and characters of color, because I have yet to truly see myself represented in a book that I genuinely enjoy, but I want to take the time to appreciate authors that put their stories out there for readers to connect with. So there are 5 reading challenges to help guide you throughout this week when choosing your TBR. You can participate in as many or as little challenges as you want. Alright, so the first challenge is to read books with main characters from 3 different races, ethnicities, etc. So I know that this is a very easy challenge to accomplish because there's so many different stories out there, and there's been this big rise of authors of color in science fiction and contemporary, and I'm looking forward to seeing what books everyone's picking out. Challenge number 2 is to read a classic book by an author of color or a translated book. Number 3, read a sci-fi fiction book by or featuring people of color. Now, I personally don't know if I will be, actually I will be participating in this one, but this isn't my type of challenge, only because I don't read a lot of sci-fi fiction, and I want to be able to expand past my little contemporary historical fiction little bubbles. This is a great challenge, but it's not really my cup of tea, but I did try to find a book that fits that category. Challenge number 4 is to read poetry by an author of color, and number 5 is to read a book that deals with racism, prejudice, or immigration. Like I said, I only own one of these books, and it's actually, I think this book I've owned the longest. Yeah, definitely I've owned this one the longest. But anyway, the first book that I'm going to be reading is Giovannis Room by James Baldwin. So James Baldwin already is a very popular name in literature, as you may know. I never personally sat down to read a James Baldwin book or poetry book because I've always just read little snippets for like an English class. But since I've only ever read snippets and I've only ever heard amazing things about James Baldwin, I want to take this time to just dedicate the start of my appreciation journey for James Baldwin. So I actually got 2 James Baldwin books. This one's Jimmy's Blues and Other Poems. So yeah. So from what I know, Giovanni's Room is about a gay American man in Paris and his journey with love in the 1950s. The second book, I actually wanted to read Milk and Honey by Ruby Kaur, but my library didn't have it, so I have The Sun and Her Flowers by Ruby Kaur. So I'm just jumping right in with her second poetry book, but I just like swept through it a little bit and it looks great already. Ruby Kaur is a Canadian-raised, Indian-born artist and poet. I know for sure in her debut book, Milk and Honey, she does not use punctuation or capital letters as a tribute to her native language, Punjabi, and I think that's just a beautifully clever way to dedicate your work to your culture, especially if your work just like represents all of you. I watched her interview with Jimmy Fallon and I just thought it was breathtaking how she read her poem and how into it she was, and I just appreciate creators like that. I just love creative people that are very passionate about their work, and Rupi Kaur is obviously very passionate. The next book this is the one I'm most excited about, but that is I Am Alfonso Jones, written by Tony Medina, and this is a graphic novel. So we have our main character Alfonso, and he is going to be in his school's hip-hop rendition of a Shakespeare play. And he's very excited about being part of this play, and so he goes out to buy this suit for the play, and he also plans on telling this girl about his feelings for her. As Alfonso is purchasing his first suit, an off-duty police officer mistakes the hanger in his hand for a gun and shoots Alfonso. The rest of the story talks about Alfonso waking up in the afterlife on this ghost train, being mentored by other police brutality and police shooting victims. And we also follow the story of his community and the aftermath and the effect that they have on their road to the fight for justice. This graphic novel is obviously a tribute to the Black Lives Matter movement, which I am so appreciative of. And I love that this book is in graphic novel form because this really speaks to younger readers. And you know what? The youth will win. And if we have stories like these that are very accessible to people and accessible to younger generations to come, then I am all for it. I'm so excited to read this. And the only other graphic novel I have ever finished was March by John Lewis. That graphic novel is a story about the very famous Congressman John Lewis and his journey back in the 60s as he was marching alongside Martin Luther King Jr. And that is another recommendation that I have for you guys. So we are throwing it way back with this next book that I'm going to read, but that is Caracara by Cynthia Karahata. I lost a dust jacket cover to this a long time ago, and this is the oldest book on my bookshelf. So before I talk about this, let me just tell you the summary. So we have our main character, Katie, who is of Japanese descent. Katie and her family moved from this Japanese-oriented community in Iowa to the deep south in Georgia. And it is in Georgia when Katie notices that people look at her differently and treat her differently just because she's Japanese. Katie's older sister, Lynn, or her younger sister. I gotta reread that to remember. But Katie's sister, Lynn, gets terminally ill, and the story just talks about Katie's journey and her road to finding that one last reminder of her older sister in her and her family's future. This is the book that I have to thank for getting me into reading, because this was the first book I've ever cried over. 11-year-old me did not know that an author can fill a reader up with that much emotion. When I read this book as I was 11 years old, I connected with Katie with the fact that she has a sister and that she's Japanese. But now that I'm older and looking back at this story, I connect with the fact that she moves from this Japanese-oriented community in a familiar home to the deep south. Literally me. I grew up in Hawaii and then I moved to South Carolina. Like, that's my story. And just looking back at it now, I realize this is the closest story I have to representing me in a book. Quick story time. A friend of mine from a long time ago and we wrote Cynthia Karahata a letter, and we mailed it out to her and everything, and she wrote us back and she gave us a Christmas card. I have it somewhere. That was my first fan to author experience, and that really just started this whole reading journey of mine. A few months ago, I think it was like 6 months ago, I emailed the author because I noticed that she has a new book coming out soon, but I haven't heard about anything new with her. She doesn't really use social media. And I wrote her an email saying, hey, I used to write to you when I was in the 6th grade. This book started my reading journey. I appreciate all of your novels that I've read, because she has other books too. And she wrote back saying, wow, you really grow up fast, and my son is growing up really fast. I can't believe that you're still reading and reading my books, and you're still appreciative of my work. And I was like, of course, girl. And so I can go on and on about this story and my love for Cynthia Karahata. But this book is so old, it's yellowing, and there's spots coming up around it. I hope it's not mold. No, it's not mold. Alright, so the next book that I have is Zone 1 by Colson Whitehead. And yes, I did just say Colson Whitehead. He is the nonfiction Pulitzer Prize winning author of The Underground Railroad, which was a Oprah Book Club book, and like I said, a Pulitzer Prize winner. And I did not know that he has a post-apocalyptic, I can't say it, horror novel. But that is all I know about this book, and I don't really want to know anymore because I want that true suspenseful feeling. But this is the closest that I will read to a sci-fi novel, and I actually wanted to read something something more on the thriller side recently, and so this is going to be it. Yeah, these are all the books that I plan on reading for the read-a-thon, and I really do hope that you all participate. Please let me know what y'all are going to be reading, because I will be watching a ton of other TBR videos as those start to come out. If you enjoyed this video, then please give this video a thumbs up, and please subscribe. That'll make me very happy. I have a new video coming out soon. I'm pre-filming a bunch of stuff, so I will have a lot of content for you guys. Yeah, bye everyone.